What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Fantasy Puck video. We have had a ton of injuries, unfortunately, to some major players in the past week, as well as some major lineup updates in just a plethora of different teams and organizations because of these injuries. So we're going to want to deep dive into what has changed in the past week in the National Hockey League so that you guys can continue to win your fantasy hockey leagues. Let's get right into the video. All right, so starting off with a major injury, Rickard Rakell goes down with an injury to his left hand that required surgery. He is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. The Pens have been playing around with some of their younger players on their top line as well as their top power play unit, but no significant changes in terms of players that, at least as of right now, that you guys should be adding to your lineup. More so something to keep an eye on as we move forward into the season, but for right now, nothing crazy. This is a big blow to Rakell owners as well as the Penguins, as Rakell was potentially somebody that they were looking at moving, but it could be closer to the deadline now at this point. On the Dallas Stars front, Roope Hintz is still being evaluated after leaving the game just this past weekend. We still don't know a timeline in terms of what that looks like. We'll get to some of their lineup changes later in the video, but Matt Duchene is also still day-to-day, so anticipate him getting back into the mix as well this week. Roman Josi, a huge loss for the Preds. Not that they have really been great out of the gate here, but losing Josi early on, especially when it's not related to his existing heart condition or his POTS, I anticipate that Brady Shea will jump onto that top power play unit as well. So keep an eye on Brady Shea right now. I don't think we have to really jump at potentially adding him right now. Therefore, he wasn't included in any of the power play updates in this video, but just again, something to keep an eye on as we move forward, depending on how well he does on that top unit. Moving on to the Canes, there's a lot of updates here across the board. Early on, we learned from Rod Brendamore that Ghost and Kochetkov will be back as soon as tomorrow, potentially against Vegas. So they're going to be back at some point this week. They're both currently skating, but unsure if they're going to play. They might be game time decisions, but they will be back later this week. Keandre Miller is going to be a little bit later on in terms of his timeline, but he is still close to a return. He's not expected to be in the lineup tomorrow. Jacob Slavin is still a ways away and likely on a week-to-week basis for his lower body injury in Carolina. So this could potentially open up some more ice time for guys like Alexander Nikishin. So something to keep an eye on there as well. It doesn't seem like the Canes have too much trust in Alexander Nikishin quarterbacking that top power play. When Ghost and Miller were both out, they went to a 5-man forward power play unit. So just something to keep an eye on there for all you Nikishin owners. And then on St. Louis's end, Robert Thomas and Jake Neighbors are more so day-to-day, which is great news for those Robert Thomas owners. It won't be a long-term situation. They likely will be out tonight versus the Pittsburgh Penguins, but should potentially be back later this week. And then Vegas suffers 2 major injuries. Aiden Hill is out week to week, as well as Mark Stone. Mark Stone was placed on LTIR. So again, we see some juggling of the lines there for Vegas's side. This is great news for Shea Theodore owners, which we will get to in a little bit. Still on the injury front here, William Nylander will be a game time decision for tomorrow. He was at practice today. He was in a limited role at practice, but Sheldon Keefe did say this morning that he's potentially close and could be in the mix. We'll see how he feels for this upcoming game on Tuesday. Joseph Wool has rejoined the team at practice, will likely be a conditioning stint into the AHL when he's ready to go, so keep an eye on for that. That likely means that he will be back into that rotating mix with him and Anthony Stolarz. Mikael Granlund left the game with a lower body injury last night, did not return, so we'll see what happens on that top power play unit as Granlund was skating on there. We currently don't have any updates. I'll even check for you guys just right now really quickly. Follow one of the beat writers on X. It doesn't look like there is any updates on Granlund right now. So we'll see what happens on that top unit. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's Cutter Gauthier getting moved up. Capo Caco is skating in a regular jersey. He is progressing, and Jared McCann is only day-to-day, guys. The IR move was strictly transactional so that they could get to a 23-man roster. Berkeley Catton also has joined that team, so something to keep an eye on for him as a potential high-end offensive-minded top 6 forward. We'll see how that goes into the mix. Not holding my breath on that one, as the Kraken are quite possibly just play all their forwards 15 minutes a night. So I think McCann will likely be back this week as well. So keep an eye on for that. Dylan Strome is still listed as day-to-day. There's no current updates on him as of right now, but Pierre-Luc Dubois is back from IR. So he slots into their top 6 in Washington, with Strome being out of the mix. Quinn Hughes is only day-to-day right now. I think it could have been an illness or just a tweak something, but he didn't play last night on Sunday against the Edmonton Oilers. So we'll keep an eye on him as well. Brad Marchand personal will not play on Tuesday. He had a loss in his family, so my condolences to Brad and his family, but he will be out tomorrow as well, listed as day-to-day. Should be good to go at some point during the week. And then Brett Pesce's injury doesn't look good. He won't travel with the team. We saw Simon Nemec have a fantastic game last game where he had 3 assists, so something to keep an eye on for him, as well as that's somebody that has been basically begging and pleading for some more ice time, but hasn't been able to find it, just how deep the Devils' defense is. So with Pesce being out potentially long-term and not traveling with the team, there's an opportunity for Nemec to kind of step into a higher-end role. And then Jacob Markstrom looks good to go. He will be back, and he was backing up Jake Allen on Sunday, so I'm anticipating that he will be back into form this week as well. That does it on the injury updates, but now on to some Alliance and power play updates. Shea Theodore is now skating on that top power play unit in Vegas. Thank God. Mike is rejoicing after his first defenseman off the board was Shea Theodore, and him not getting any power play time early on was something terrifying. So I would keep an eye on Theodore for right now. I think there's a potential that if you really wanted to move off him, if he starts to get hot on that top power play unit, who knows if Mark Stone's going to come back and they decide to add him back on that top power play unit, which saw a lot of success early on, but we'll see what happens with Theodore there. I think he's an own in 10 plus team leagues. If you're in a 12 team league, you should hold on to him as well. Tyler Seguin, he is now skating line 1 and power play 1 in Rupe Hintz's role. So I think he's an add in 12 plus team leagues. He's also center right wing eligibility, so adds some flexibility there as well. Things have not been great for Andrei Svechnikov as he's continuing to skate on that line 3 or line 4, depending on which way it's deployed on a game per game basis, but he is on that top power play unit now. I'm still continuing to hold them in my 12 plus team league. I think I have him in the Creators League, or excuse me, it's the FPPL League that I have him. I'm continuing to hold on to him. Fingers crossed that he gets some much needed scoring upside there on that top power play unit. Zane Parekh is now on that top power play unit in Calgary. They have recently moved on from Mackenzie Weegar. We anticipated that this could happen. He had a power play assist the first time that they moved him up there, and then on the next game didn't have anything going on the power play. His peripherals have been kind of meh, so I think he's ownable in 14 plus team leagues or deeper 12 team leagues. Again, if you're looking to be patient with a guy like Parekh, I would still hold on. He's approaching that kind of 9-game limit right now, so we'll see what the Flames decide to do with him in terms of potentially sending him back down to junior, or whether or not they want to keep him on the roster and burn a contract here. Valery Nichushkin is now skating on power play 1. They recently made that change, even though that they had Victor Olofsson on that top line alongside Brock Nelson. It looks like Nichushkin did join that top power play unit through the game most recently for the Abs. I think he's an own in 10 plus team leagues. He's been solid out of the gate so far. I would be not really panicked or worried about him. He is going to get some reps on that top power play unit, as the Abs are 1 for 20. I think it's 1 for 24 so far on the season on the power play. So something needs to change there, and I think Nichushkin should be the catalyst in that sense. Some more line and power play updates. Ryan Leonard is now skating line 1 alongside Alex Ovechkin, so I think he's an add, and in potentially even in 12-team leagues, depending on how deep they are, but he should be an own in 14+ team leagues as well. Jared Spurgeon and Brock Faber now get some power play time. Spurgeon bumped Buium off that top power play unit, and then Faber actually registered 2 power play points on pair 2 as well. So things aren't looking great for Zeev Buium right now. I'm not sure what their long-term plan is with him, but if a Faber is on that second power play unit alongside Buium, and Buium is struggling, especially at 5-on-5, I don't know how that's going to work necessarily. I still think that they're going to need Buium on that top power play unit. They saw a lot of success with him. So I'm still holding on Z Buium right now, but just something to keep an eye on with the Minnesota Wild moving forward in terms of how they deploy their power play. I would pick up Spurgeon in the short term if you need a defenseman in 12+ team leagues, and then Faber should be 14+ team leagues. Andrei Burakovsky, I believe he was skating on line 1 for the majority of the time here, but he has now been promoted to power play 1, so that's a great bonus if you are an Andrei Burakovsky owner. I think he's worth adding in 12+ team leagues. He should get some power play points here and there as Chicago's power play does start to come along. Emmett Finney is now skating line 1 and power play 1 in Detroit. I know he was on that top line, but he's had a lot of success recently, and he's on our breakout watch now as well. But he's an own in 12+ team leagues, and he's center left wing, so some flexibility there as well. Matias Maccelli, just something to keep an eye on. If Nylander is out a little bit longer than what we anticipated, he was getting power play 1 reps. I don't think you should add him right now. I think if the Nylander injury extends beyond this week and it's potentially like a week-to-week thing, just because Willie was taking limited reps in practice, I think that Maccelli is potentially worth an add in a 14+ team league. But he is skating line 2, which has been the better line with John Tavares, who's been really hot out of the gate. So just something to keep an eye on for those of you that are in super deep leagues. But I wouldn't be jumping at grabbing Matias Maccelli early on. On to some breakout watch. I mentioned Emmett Finney, but Macklin Celebrini, guys, I double took at when I saw how many points he had after this weekend. 5 goals and 10 points and 18 shots in his last 5 games alone. Is he going to be a first-round pick in fantasy next year? I don't know. If he can keep this pace up, and I think if he gets over 80 points, I would absolutely take a look at him towards the end of that first round, or maybe even early second round. But he has just been phenomenal. And if you're in a league that counts faceoffs, he's been great in the dot as well. He looks like an absolute stud out there on a very bad San Jose Sharks team. He is just far and above better than we could have anticipated, at least early on in the season here. Speaking of far and away better than anticipated, Matthew Schaefer, just phenomenal. He played over 27 minutes last game. He's got 7 points and 23 shots in his last 8 games played. An absolute league winner so far. Does he finish with more points than Lane Hudson did as a rookie last year with 66? I think if he keeps up this pace and he's now a staple on that top power play unit, I think he does it. I think he could hit into that 65, maybe even upwards of 70 points, which would be phenomenal for a guy that most of you grabbed off of waivers or in the last couple rounds of your fantasy hockey drafts. Logan Cooley has also been really hot this week, and I believe he was the second star of the week in the National Hockey League, but he's got 6 goals and 9 points in his last 5 games with 17 shots. So very similar to Macklin Celebrini in his last 5 games. Is he a point per game player by the end of the year? He was in our breakout watch video. A guy that could go nuclear depending on the ice time that he gets. It still looks like they have Barrett Hayton on that top line, and I would not be changing anything right now if I'm the Utah Mammoth, just with the way that Nick Schmaltz is playing, with the way that Cooley's playing, with the way that Gunther's playing. Like, both their top 6 lines have just been phenomenal. So is he a point per game player at the end of the year? I think he is. I think he could be upwards of around 80 points if he maintains this current pace. And then Trevor Zegras, again, another guy that was kind of like, he had some good showings in preseason. We weren't sure about him. He just recently gained left wing eligibility as well, but he's got 8 points in his last 8 games to start this season without power play 1 time. So something to keep an eye on with Zeegs. Does he finish with over 65 points this year? I don't know. He's been kind of hovering around that 60 point mark historically. He's not really a high shot volume guy or a high goal total guy, but we'll see what happens as we move through. Finishing out our video, guys, goalie central, Jay Gottinger. I've been seeing a lot of questions and comments around him. He has had a bit of a rough start in terms of at least his counting stats early on, but they've had a tough schedule. Winnipeg, Colorado, Minnesota, LA, Carolina. Carolina. They get Tampa and Florida later this week. I'm not worried about him. If you're a Jake Ottinger owner, I would hold on to him. Dallas will come around. They're a phenomenal team. I'm not worried. If you get some offers on him, just know that those are people trying to buy low. Joseph Woll would add in 12 plus team leagues. If you need a goalie, he will split time with Anthony Stolarz throughout the course of the season. For the Leafs, they should, and they haven't been great out of the gate, honestly. So we'll see what that looks like. But Woll is a solid goaltender. Maybe Stolarz is being overworked right now. We'll see what happens with Woll, but do anticipate an AHL stint before he gets back into the mix for the Leafs. So just something to keep an eye on if you need some goaltending help. Andrei Vasilevskiy got his first win against Vegas on Sunday. I think he's a buy low if possible. He hasn't had a great start to the year, but only one win through like 6 games, through 6 starts. Hasn't been great. So I still think he is a phenomenal buy low right now for those of you in basically any league. See what you can get or put together for Andrei Vasilevskiy if you really need a goaltender. And then Linus Ullmark, he's had some early struggles but the last 2 games he's been solid, has posted over a 910 save percentage. I believe it was over 920 for both those games, and just recently won his last 2. So I'm holding on him. I wouldn't be too worried about him. If you're an Ullmark owner, it looks like they are turning it around. That's going to do for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Leave any comments down below if you have players for ads or drop suggestions. There will be a drop video coming out later this week, so stay tuned for that as well. Just keep an eye on for that. If you have some questions about some potential drops, leave them in the video down below and I will get to those comments as quickly as I can. So thank you again, guys, for watching the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed the content and hit that subscribe button. We have a ton of more valuable content coming to you guys throughout the course of the regular season, but that will do it for this video, guys. Let's go Blue Jays.